Hey, everybody, and excuse me. Welcome to Tales of the Night Horror Podcast. A little bit different if you are used to the mob stuff that we do. And we will be doing that, excuse me, live probably in the next 2 weeks. Do me a favor if you are in the chat, if you can hit the number 1 to let me know that you can actually fucking hear me. That would be much obliged because I need to make sure you hear me that way. I don't get like a million texts, and then we'll get started. So let's see. As soon as I see a 1, we'll get going. Okay, I see some 1. So I'm just going to, excuse me, I've been sick for like a month. This stuff ain't going away. So I'm going to do my best to entertain you guys a little bit tonight. I see Dana and the Smiths is in here. How are you? I see Randy Tippett, Silo Wren, a lot of familiar faces. Let's see. Let me just scroll down here really quick. My buddy Chris is in the chat. Chris, you seen any good mob boss dancers lately? Terrell, how you doing, buddy? I hope everything's going all right. Boardwalk guy, what's up, my friend? How are you? You making the mozzarella or what? Let's see. Hello, John. How are you? And I think that's just about everybody. What's up, Randy? I'm not expecting a whole lot of people here tonight, which is fine with me. Because I have been out of the loop for a long time with this live crap. But basically, if you're unfamiliar with what this show is, and I will try to get, hi, Edna, how are you? Merry Christmas. Hopefully, yeah, shirtless Chris and waving a shirt over his head and singing Elton John songs and Beatles songs. One day, I swear to God, we're going to be able to tell that story. Anyway, if you're unfamiliar with what this is basically a horror podcast that is about pretty much everything that is horror, from Bigfoot to just anything you can think of, ghost hauntings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the way we sort of started was I started down the true crime path, and we covered some serial killings, we covered some unsolved disappearances, some unsolved murders and stuff like that. And right away, I got a little paranoid because I started saying to myself, fuck, I don't want to get down the true crime, outlet. But this sort of encompasses true crime. Yeah, it was Philadelphia Freedom, Chris. But, but what this totally entails is just everything that's creepy, conspiracy theories, things that just make me think at night. Now, I would not consider myself a total skeptic, but I'm kind of guy that unless I see it, touch it, smell it, taste it, hear it, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Anyway, so tonight is going to be open forum. Hey, Frank, how are you? Merry Christmas. Tonight is going to be open forum. We can talk about anything. I will actually drop the link if you want to come on and shoot the shit with me. We can definitely do that. We only really technically have one rule here. And just respect everybody. If you don't, you're going to get thrown out. And that's just the end of it. If you want to debate, that's what this is all about. Also, please, under no circumstances, give me any money. Okay. It's Christmas time. There are people that really, really need it. So you could do me a solid. You can honor the life of my sister and my father by donating to St. Jude's, or you could do the other cool thing, which is donate money to the SPCA. Every year they need money to take care of the animals. So, please, while I appreciate money, I don't ask for it. I don't want it. I would rather you donate it to people that could really use it. So with all that being said, in the last 2 weeks, we've talked about a lot of different things. And one of the things I talked about last week was Bigfoot. Okay. Just right out of the gate, I would not consider myself, Jimmy the Gent, I'm doing great, buddy. I would not consider myself an expert on anything. I would not consider myself a complete skeptic because I think much like us, growing up with stories, say, of Blackbeard's treasure and the lost colony and all of these different crazy things that we grow up hearing and reading about in books, of course, we want them to be real. But what it really comes down to at the end of the day is it tangible? Can you prove it? And without proving it, you kind of shit out of luck. And so if you have been watching any of the Bigfoot stuff that we did, I wanted to take a different approach. My approach is, I don't know what Bigfoot is, but there is a film called the Patterson-Gimlin film, which is filmed back in the 50s. And this is the film that all of the Bigfoot nuts, and I'm not being disrespectful by saying that, but these are what the Bigfoot people believe to be real. Now, the problem with this film and the way and the approach I wanted to take it was, well, here's the film. Let's look at it. And you guys figure it out because I sure can't. The problem with this film is that every single one of the participants that took part in this film, and if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, you can go back to the Bigfoot show that we did and watch it for yourself, where we talk about the Lazarus taxon and some other things. And there's a lot of circumstantial evidence, okay, with Bigfoot. But this film, for some reason, has gained such hysteria that scientists now believe it's real. The problem with this, okay, is that everyone who was involved in this film admitted it was a fraud and it was a hoax. The only person that didn't was Patterson. He's the only one that held out and said it wasn't fake. Now, I went through and I gave you a list of all of the things, like they admitted to making the footprints, they admitted to making the costumes, they admitted to Patterson going to LA trying to get money out of Roy Rogers to film this movie that Patterson wanted to film called, I forgot what it was called, but the premise was that a bunch of Native Americans would take these hunters out into the wilderness to hunt for Bigfoot. That was what he really wanted to do. And the fact that he went to LA 3 separate times is a little, to me, fucked up. I mean, let's just be honest. The guy was there to try to get a costume made, and then all of a sudden this film comes out. The other thing is the Bigfoot prints. You have people that admitted to doing that. So I basically, hey, Donald, how are you, buddy? Hey, Frank, I already said hi to you. So here's my thing. I just got your text, you. Sorry, I have my phone off, but I just saw it. But I'm glad I got you with the light bulb. So here's the thing. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this tonight because I got a nasty gram. And you know what, let me be very fair and honest about this. It wasn't really nasty gram. It was from somebody that was very intelligent, who was not very happy with what I had to say. And once again, my stance is I don't know what to believe. Do I want to believe? Absolutely. Then there's the whole DNA evidence that Josh Gates found in the Himalayas, which tested positive for primate DNA, which has never been found before. So we can't say that primates don't exist, but who's to say that Bigfoot's really a primate? Okay. So we set all of that aside. And I want to read this email because I believe in being fair. And it's, if I thought the mob genre people were fucking nuts, oh my God, these Bigfoot people, they're not nuts, but they really believe, and I give them credit. But I wanted to read this email, explain one thing, and then I've got 2 films I want to show you. And then we're going to talk about it and open up the forum. All right, so I'm not going to tell you whose name this is just for confidence, but I'm always 100% straight up honest about everything. And I think the fact that he took the time to email me, I should at least address it. So he says, okay, yes, I just began to listen to one of your YouTube videos on your show and was shocked and dismayed to hear you confidently claim that the Patterson Gimlin film is proven fake. And I'm not going to make this long, which they are when they say that, or go deep into detail regarding the matter. But my point here is to attempt to do you a great favor and let you know that your statement is not only not a verified fact of any sort, but it's actually utterly preposterous for a great number of reasons. So there are so many different analyses of that film using modern technology, zoomed in and stabilized, and the subject in that film is a genuine animal. The footage couldn't be faked using a costume today, let alone in 1967. So he is right. It was 1967, not 57. My bad. Just look at the costume and the makeup jobs in Planet of the Apes movie from the same year, and it's clear there is zero possibility anyone could have created such an impossibly biologically detailed and realistic costume as Patterson would need if fake. Beyond that, though, Patterson has been absolutely proven beyond any possible doubt through easily performed and repeatable measurements to have non-human body ratios that are well outside the possible anatomical range of those that all humans share, regardless of sex, race, height, and any other factor, making it an absolute impossibility that any human actor could wear a suit of his or her dimensions and move around, even if such a magically realistic costume could ever be created, which again, it could not be, not 57 years ago, and not even today. There is simply no legitimate logical argument that can overcome this discovery, and the debate is over. And you can find videos proving this fact yourself with very little effort. So I suggest, for the sake of your own credibility, that you seek them out. And assuming that you are a rational, intelligent, intellectually honest man, then you will quickly see that you've chosen to believe a 100% certain lie. And hopefully you'll change your mind. You're wrong about this matter, dead wrong. Heed my words or don't. But no, I immediately lost interest in continuing your video when I heard you say such a deep, easily disproven certain falsehood. For how, after hearing such certain nonsense, could I hope to trust any other assertions you might make? Okay, so that's it. It's fair enough. It's a fair enough, I think, email. It's a fair enough question. But let me retort to you. Prove to me Bigfoot exists. I'll wait. I'll wait. Show me DNA. Show me DNA. Something that is 9 feet tall and weighs 600 to 700 pounds has to eat a lot of protein. So show me nothing but dead bodies of deer at high altitudes. You can't. So here's my thing. If he had actually listened to what I said versus cherry pick what I said, what did I say? I said, I'm not sure if it's real. I'm not sure if it's real. I personally don't believe in Bigfoot, but no, spirits are definitely with us. Well, and you know, Dana, that's a very interesting comment, and I agree with you. However, here's my thing. I never said Bigfoot didn't exist. I merely just said that the video, the Patterson film, is faked. Now, here's my thing. Why on earth would people who made a video, who had obviously fooled everybody since 1967, admit it? If it's real, why would you say it isn't? Okay, we also posted FBI files because the FBI looked into this. There were a lot of DNA samples that came back to be apes that weren't recognized. But anytime you're talking about history and animals and species changing, this is bound to happen. So to be fair to all of you, yeah. So to be fair for everybody, I want to show you guys two different films, okay? And it's a very quick thing. The first one I'm going to show you because I believe in being honest, and I believe in saying, okay, he has a point, so let me further look into this. So what I did was I got another version of the Patterson Gimlin film, and this is at 60 frames per second. Now, the first thing you're going to see is sort of a blown up thing of like an 8-foot ape actually walking across the screen. Then it's going to come back and it's going to be 60 frames per second at high definition. Okay. And then we'll come back and talk about that. But I want you guys to check this out, and it's going to play 2 or 3 times. So here we go. All right. So you guys saw that, right? So Dana brings up a really great point. That gait, so to speak, is like how a human walks. You're right. So to not be undone, I did some measurements with a ruler. I got all fucking scientific over here in my little lab. That thing is literally, and you cannot be 100% positive, but that thing is anywhere between 6'6" and 7 feet tall, somewhere in between 6 and 7 feet tall. Now that's not impossible to put a guy in a costume. However, I don't know if you guys noticed something, and I'm going to play it again, and then we'll go to a different film. But here's the thing: I want you, when I play it this time, I want you to pay real close attention to the legs and to the muscles that are undulating when it walks. That's something that I have never noticed before. Look real close, and you will see the muscles flex as it walks. But where I get confused is something that's that heavy, that's north of 350 pounds. I hate to use this reference, but like if you got a big booty, it's going to shake when you walk, and this thing doesn't move at all. But when you look at the pectoral muscles, the arm muscles, and the legs, you will literally see the muscles flex. So watch it one more time. All right. So the film has been like Chris brings up a great point right here. Is this film has been picked over by thousands of experts in fields over the years. 98% agree that it's no man in a suit. Well, here's the problem with that. The problem with that is it's a proven fact that Patterson was a fraudster, a huckster, and a guy that was always looking to get rich quick. Now, I'm not debating whether Bigfoot's real. I'm not debating necessarily where this is real. I'm just simply telling you the information that's out there that people say, and people have admitted that it was a part of a hoax. I can't say it any more clear than that. Um, I find their story has changed repeatedly throughout the years. I just don't know. And I don't think all of you know either. But if you look at all of the Bigfoot cases, all of the reported sightings, the descriptions of Bigfoot are completely different than that one. Now, I'm not saying that all Bigfoots will look the same, but there has just been so many different sort of descriptions. But to be fair, let's talk about the gait because everybody's going to talk about the gait and how they walk. So let's see what we got here. For me, I think it's just the shimmer of the costume. Well, it was actually made out of horsehair, and that would explain the shimmer of the costume because the person that made the costume came in and said that they used horsehair to design the suit. The thing that you can't explain to me, though, how do they get the muscles to undulate? How do they get the muscles to flex? It is true. In 1967, they did not have that capability to do these kind of things. So, how did they do that? That's what makes me go, huh, I have no fucking idea. But because we talked about the gate, I want to show you something because this is might change some of the opinions in this room. I'm not trying to prove to you it exists or it's fake or it's not. I'm just giving you the facts. Ready? So this will probably play through twice, but I want you to focus on the gate between the legs when it walks. Then in the end, you're going to see something very fucked up. All right. Yes, Bluff Creek, California. Now, I'm going to play it one more time so you guys can see it. That gate is a lot bigger than you think it is. Uh, Now, I want you to imagine, if you will, you're going to walk, right? And I think we've all done this in snow. We really stretch our legs out. But when we stretch our legs out, just as human beings, okay, we have a tendency to favor one side of the leg, whichever the leg is that's being put down with force. Your weight will switch to that leg. That doesn't happen in this. And that to me is odd. That's either somebody that has practiced this over and over and over again, but that gate is a lot wider than the first shot of the film. So I'll go through one more time so you all can see it, and then look at the foot at the end because it has dermal ridges. Do you guys think, and I'm just asking your opinion, do you really think a costume guy would go this far, Patterson and all of them, would they go that far to make dermal ridges on the bottom of a foot of a costume? Think about it. This thing is being filmed from, I believe it was 75 feet away, 100 yards away. Why would they waste the extra money to get dermal ridges made? It's very odd to me. It's very odd, but I can only imagine how sweaty that fucker must have been in that costume. But just to be fair, let me pull this video up one more time and you guys can watch. So there you have it. So I don't know. I don't know. Now, just to be fair, there were reports that the way that they were able to do this wide gate was they attached blocks of wood inside of the costume itself. And that's all fine and dandy. These are things that have been widely reported for a long time. But here's my thing. I'm just asking a question for you guys because this is about you guys. How did they get the muscles to undulate and flex? How do you get back muscles to flex like that when something walks? And the other thing too is I don't know. My mind is blown, but here's my point. And my point when I did the show last week was really this was that if, okay, the people that were involved in this film, with the exception of one person, all said it was a fucking hoax, then how can people believe this is true when there's no scientific evidence to back it up? There's no DNA, there's just footprints and sightings, and then there's noises. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm telling you the relevance of this film is I don't think it's real. That's just me. I could be absolutely fucking wrong. Let's see. They found in the leg muscle flexing some sort of thing that happens when there's a muscle injury. I wish I could remember what they call it. I wish you could remember it too. Let's see. If it's fake, it would explain intentionally long. If it's fake, right, right, right. I'm just unsure. I'm completely and utterly unsure of how they did this. There's always going to be two sides to every story. I want the thing to fucking exist. Don't get me wrong. I want it to exist. I just think that if you're going to make an argument that something exists in an email to me, please don't tell me that a film is real. Show me proof. Show me DNA. Show me a corpse. You mean to tell me these things? First of all, let's just get scientific for a second, all right? First of all, in order for something like this to survive, okay, there has to be protein. Fish, they're not vegetarians, okay? To be that size, to be that massive, because they average them from 6 to 9 feet, from 4 to 7,000, or excuse me, 4 to 700 pounds. You have to eat meat. You can't just survive. Otherwise, they would be thin as a rail. They wouldn't have musculature like gorillas, right? So naturally, you're going to come across corpses at some point. Also, as well, in order for a species to survive, they have to fucking bang. There's no other way to say it. They could, okay, I'll go. They can mate. They have to bang something. All right. And if the thing is that if they're mating, they're breeding, they're expanding, you mean to tell me of all 50 states, whatever the hell, these things are just not seen? They're not photographed? Nobody's caught one on film that at least isn't some jerk off in a costume? And that's my thing. The people that want to be taken seriously, that believe in this, there's nothing wrong with that. But every time one of these people tries to get serious, there's all of these other jerks that do these hoaxes that ruin it. Now, I will say this, if you guys know who Les Stroud is. Les Stroud is also known as Survivor Man. He is from Canada, and he didn't believe any of this shit. He really didn't. And he's a guy that's been in the Canadian Rockies, all over the world. He's an outdoor guy. And this is a guy you're not going to bullshit. But here's the thing about Les Stroud. He went out to the woods with a guy by the name of Todd Sterling, or I'm probably saying, I think it was probably Sterling. And Todd Sterling was a guy that was suing the Canadian government, saying these things existed, and he took videos. And, you know, you can look it up for yourself on YouTube. We talked about it on our Bigfoot show. But after like 2 weeks of being in the wilderness, there was shit happening that he just couldn't explain. Now, since then, Les Stroud has started his own Bigfoot stuff, and he says they're real. I don't know if he's doing it because maybe it's just a thing to do, but he doesn't seem like a bullshitter to me. He just really wouldn't. So I don't know if it exists. I really don't know if it does, but I think that you can't say that a video is real when that video that you just saw is missing 45 seconds on each end. That's kind of the other thing, is the full video has never been seen. Why a Bigfoot would just walk right in front of guys with guns and look over at them like, hey, how you doing? That I don't know. I just don't see it as like, I just don't see that as happening, but I could be wrong. I could utterly be wrong, but you can't tell me that something exists based on a video. Otherwise, the Loch Ness exists. All kinds of things. Mermaids fucking exist. And that's sort of my thing, is that a video doesn't prove it. DNA does. DNA proves it. A body proves it. Never mind the people that say they've been abducted by Bigfoot and had sex with them. These are the real lunatics of the fucking world. Hey, Grambino, how you doing, my buddy? So, you know, all that being said, I don't want the whole show to be, well, that's the only clip, Chris, that's surfaced. Now, I've seen 35 seconds of the front end of that, and it's just them riding on horses and shit. It's just, I don't know, it's just odd that you're there to film an actual film itself, and then suddenly you run across this thing. I don't know. It's just too circumstantial to me for me to believe that, to be honest. You know what I mean? Hey, Mafia Truth, how are you? So for those of you that are in the chat, let me just explain something. This is the other podcast that we do. We are going to be doing live mob stuff again, so don't think we're not. I just took a break from the live mob stuff for a while, just because this is other stuff that interests me, and it's fun to do. So we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. There's a video of one by a lake, but it looked worse than the one you just played. Yeah, there's a couple of videos out there, and believe it or not, I showed some photos and some videos on the Bigfoot show that we did that it's kind of interesting, but that's kind of like one of those things where you're the one guy out of the million that claims this shit, and you're the only one that seemed to have been able to capture one. And I just think that something that's 9 feet goddamn tall is not going to be something that's going to be able to hide from people. It's going to be intelligent enough to do it. But the idea that it's just going to completely be able to vanish. Now, if you follow the Native American legends, they say they're shapeshifters. And if that's the case, well, then you have some sort of a weirdo, plausible explanation for why something could just disappear. But these things, I don't know. I don't know what to believe. Well, and here you go with that. What I don't get is why they put breasts on Bigfoot. Well, they were trying to make it a female. Listen, we could joke about that, you know, but you know, it's just one of those things. I don't know why they would. I mean, I guess a female would be like, why not throw babies in there if you're going to spend X, Y, and Z anyway? But I don't know. Have any of you ever seen Bigfoot? Have any of you ever seen the skunk ape in Florida? Everybody says the skunk ape exists. You know, for me, I just want to see like DNA or something. Grambino says, the thing that always made me doubt Bigfoot was the lack of recent bones. They have to die somewhere. That's exactly where I stand with it. You know, they said that colossal squid didn't exist. So all of those photos, remember when you watch old time movies and stuff? Oh, it's the Kraken. The Kraken wasn't a giant fucking octopus. It was a colossal fucking squid. And they thought that they didn't exist anymore. And then a couple of years ago, that video came out with that vessel in China with that fucking thing coming out of the water, and its tentacles are like 18 feet long. No, thank you. Colossal squid are eating great white sharks. But it's like I said in the other thing, like I would have a much easier time believing like megalodon still existed. And the reason why I say that is because we've only investigated 5% of the ocean, only 5%. So there's got to be shit there that we've never seen or heard of. For me, it's more plausible. But with my luck, guess what, guys? I'm going to go camping like next year, and I'm going to like get molested by a Bigfoot or some shit. And I'll get like the Bigfoot clap. Do I have any thoughts on the Zodiac murders? No, I really don't. I think that I think the FBI knows damn well who did that, but I think the guy who did that's dead. But I don't. But that's a show in and of itself, Joey. And I promise you, we'll do a show like that. Let's see. Frank says, "Why not attack the filmmaker?" Well, that's my thing, right? Now, these people that really believe this are going to tell you, well, they had nothing to fear. They're the beast. I'm sorry, but these guys got weapons. Obviously, Bigfoots would have been around. I mean, the first report came in, I believe, in like 1876 of Bigfoot shit. Like early explorers coming to this country. Well, I forgot what year it was, so don't quote me on that. But even French explorers, when they were coming to this country, repeated this shit. So this has been like regurgitated for like 300-400 years or whatever. And if they've been around that long, wouldn't there be more than, I don't know, 2? So that's just kind of my thing. I don't know. Have you ever watched the Missing 411? Actually, Gianni, I think you should go back and you should watch a couple. We've only got 4 podcasts out on this genre. I want you to go back and listen to the disappearances one that we did. There is the Colonial Parkway serial killings. There's weird disappearances. There's the Villisca Axe murder house. We actually covered some of that Missing 411 stuff. And I know he believed that it was Bigfoot or UFOs or something, but I got a UFO story that's pretty crazy. I just don't know if I want to tell it because I don't want people to think I'm crazy. Did I ever see Bigfoot? Does Ron Previty count? Ron Previty sure does. Let's see. If they did exist, why haven't they found more proof, more actual videos? Well, and that's kind of my question. Josh Gates, who is on the Discovery show, he's got like 10 or 12 different shows out. He actually went to the Himalayas and they were investigating the Yeren or the Yeti or the Bigfoot, or also known as the Abominable Snowman. And they literally were on tracks and they hired trackers and they were following things. And they never got photographic evidence other than humongous ass footprints, but they got a clunk of fur, which was white, which I thought, okay, that's a deer's ass tail or something, whatever. And he took this immediately and it was stuck between like the bark in a tree, and he grabbed it, packaged it, sent it off to Texas, and it came back as primate hair, not known to genealogical databases. So he found hair from a primate that does not exist in our databanks. So what do you say to that? But yet these people in the Himalayas are all saying the same thing, that this thing fucking exists at high altitudes. So I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, if I came across, like the old saying is, well, if I saw Bigfoot, I'd shoot it. I wouldn't. I'd be too busy shitting my fucking pants to do anything, But I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. Can you guys, never mind. I'll don't let anybody in here with the porn stuff. Well, and that's the beauty of this whole genre, even ghosts, is you can choose to believe. Well, here's a great question. If we can move off the Bigfoot thing for a minute, is everybody cool with that? Can you hit one if we can move off the Bigfoot for a second? And we will be covering the Loch Ness Monster. I have been to Loch Ness in Scotland, and that's a creepy fucking place. Totally creepy place. Totally creepy. But if we can move off of the we can move off of Bigfoot for a second. I want to ask you ghost people in here, because I know we have some people in here that are involved in spirits, ghosts, and things like that. And I want to ask a legitimate question. And this is more of an opinion. Do you believe that Ghost Hunters is real? With Zach Baggins. Do you believe that that show is real, or do you believe that it's staged? I'm just curious of what your opinion is. Totally don't know what to believe about that. All right, so let's do that. I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe. I've let me put it this way. I've had some experiences in my life that were pretty crazy. Just really crazy. You know, but is it something tangible? I don't know. I just don't know if it is. Okay, Randy says it's fake. Why hasn't somebody shot one of those things? Well, that's another thing, because you know there's some hunter out there that's his you know that's what he wants to do. Put Bigfoot's head or balls in the wall. Of course, but some of what they do is staged. Okay, that's kind of what I typically believe with a lot of these shows, because I always wondered one thing, and by all means, I think the emphasis on that particular show, Ghost Adventures, the emphasis is on emotion. The emphasis is taking the audience on a roller coaster ride. Do I really think that Zach gets infested with some demon and starts going crazy, wants to kill everybody in the house? No, I don't believe any of that. However, that's really the only show on television where shit happens. Now you can watch a lot of these other ones. I got to tell you this. This is fucking hilarious. You guys want to talk funny? I don't know if any of you have Discovery Plus. There is a Scottish ghost hunting show, and I shit you not. Okay, I start watching it just because it's a new ghost hunting show. And they're in Scotland, and they're in all the haunted places. This is going to be great. I shit you not, and I will find this clip and I will put it on YouTube. This guy, they're in this castle. And this guy is allegedly a psychic. So he's explaining that he's feeling this and he's saying that. And then he stops and he freezes and his eyes open all the way up. And this is literally, I swear to God, what he says. A ghost just stuck his fist in my ass. I thought I was hearing shit. And of course I hear it. And I'm texting somebody going, you're not going to believe this guy just said a ghost just stuck something in his ass. This is fantastic. And I taped it on my phone, but then I deleted it thinking, I'll never use this. But here we are. But I think a lot of those places that they go are haunted. I think a lot of things that happen for the most part are real, but I think it's the reactions are a little rehearsed. But then again, here's my challenge. If Zach were to ever listen to this, which he won't, here's my challenge. Invite me to one of your locations. I'll go. I probably won't stay, but for 5 seconds, because the first fucking thing that flies off the wall, I'm leaving. Like, I'm done. I'm coming with the 12-foot crucifix. I'm not fucking around these places, especially places where children were fucking tortured. Those are just like the most evil fucking places. But no, I just can't fist of my. Yeah, it was something like that. He was like, a ghost just stuck something in my ass. And he's Scottish. So he's like, oh, the ghost just stuck something in me arse. And I'm like going, what the fuck did he just say? This guy's getting molested on live TV by a ghost. And I couldn't stop laughing because it was just so fucking absurd. I will get this clip. I don't know if YouTube will let me put it on, but I will get this goddamn clip and put it on our community page, because I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I'm like, did he really just, and I kept rewinding it like a child and laughing hysterically every time he said it. But I don't know. And the whole house shook. And my grandparents told me to rat. Yeah, if you could do me a favor, just like and subscribe. Not every show is going to be this fucking wild. But I just wanted to come on for a while. We'll probably go till 10. I dropped the link earlier if anybody wants to come on. I am just I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to believe. And the thing is I completely understand anybody that believes in Bigfoot. Like there's nothing wrong with believing in it. But I'm going to say I'm not the daddy till the DNA proves that I am. So that's just kind of where my stance is. But when it comes to like oceanic things, that's why I don't really cherry pick those type of things, because if we've only investigated 5% of the ocean, then there's going to be crap there that we just can't even comprehend. You know, my worst fear, like a lot of people tell, what's your worst fear? To be in an abandoned house and hear noises? No, my worst fear is to crash in a goddamn plane and be the only survivor floating in the ocean. Because what you essentially become is a fucking bobber for a shark. That's it. You know, it's not going to do you any good when what are you going to do? Poke the shark in the eye with a stump after he bites your arm off? You know, that's the shit that terrifies me. You know what I mean? All right, so let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see. We went to the boys' home. They were tortured. Sounds were horrible. Yeah, I can only imagine, because I'm a firm believer in imprinting. And I think that if you really want to get down into the technical aspects of imprinting, is when something really fucking awful happens somewhere, it just kind of stays in the walls, you know. And it's sort of like a DVD player where just certain instances of this awful event just continue to play and they continue to play. But then there's sort of the flip side of that, where you have intelligent hauntings where shit's responding to you, which no, thank you. I don't need that. You know what I mean? But it just depends on what you believe. I have heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren. You're probably not going to like what my response is, but I think they were full of shit. I think they were full of shit. And the reason why I say that is not because, let me rephrase this. If you're truly psychic and your whole design and your whole desire is to help people, why are you getting paid millions of dollars a year to do it? To me, that, and maybe it's not fair for me to say this, and this might offend people, but if you take that into like that nut job out in fucking Long Island, the Long Island medium who's so full of shit that it's not even funny, but when principle becomes money, I have a tendency to stop believing the shit you have to say. You know, but then again, I may run into a psychic one day that blows my fucking mind and tells me some weird shit. I just don't know, but I just don't buy it. I don't buy it because I don't know. I don't like the Long Island medium lady. I didn't like that guy John Edwards either. I thought he was a fucking weirdo. But do I think people have abilities? Absolutely. Listen, I always knew I was about to be arrested before I got arrested. I knew I was going to get in trouble immediately before the teacher came and got me out of the class. Is that intuition? Is that picking up on something? Absolutely. But you know, it is. Giant squids sort of suck. Yeah, and you know what? They have that fucking mouth. Oh my God, could you imagine being eaten alive by something like that? A squid grabs you, you're done. I mean, there is no like skating from that, you know? Randy says, I thought you did an excellent job on the Velisca. There are some things that I study that you didn't bring up, but they keep it silent. Well, here's my thing, and this is what I try to do. I just try to not, because I do an organized crime show on the side, like currently on that, and I don't want to talk really about that, but currently we're covering all of Canada, right? And so oftentimes I find that if I give people way too much, they don't regurgitate it. They'll regurgitate the bulk, but what will happen 9 times out of 10 is when you go to the secondary show, people have already forgotten some of the small, intricate details of the first one. So I try to keep it as basic as I can. That way people can retain it. And that way I kind of don't spend the whole next show regurgitating everything I just talked about. You know, I don't like her either. I don't like that hairstyle. Can somebody please tell her it's not 1954 anymore? Is that real hair or is that a fucking wig? It looks like a goddamn lion's mane. I just don't get it. And I got to be honest with you. If I'm walking through a fucking Price Club or a fucking, well, I don't have Walmarts. I'm in New York City. But if I'm walking through like a big store and she approaches me and says, I need to talk to you. Your dead relative just wanted me to tell you. I would be like, bitch, fuck off. Get away from me, you fucking weirdo. You have a better chance of catching a psychic crackhead on the corner than you do that lady. I'm just, hey, mister, got any money for some crack? I'll tell you your fortune, you know? And I'm not, listen, I'm absolutely not knocking psychics. I just think the reality is majority are frauds, but I think there are some that are very good. I'm trying to remember the name of this one lady, and I can't remember her name for the life of me. She has like a French last name, and she's been on a couple of these shows. I believe her. I believe that guy Chip Coffee. I believe he's psychic. But then again, I'm not on these shows. I'm not sitting across from them. But if somebody comes over to me and says, in 2026, your testicles will multiply and explode in front of a large crowd, and then it happens, I'm going to be like, wow. But realistically, a lot of the things that they do talk about are very, very subject to intuition. Like if I said to all of you, there's somebody in our room right now, there's a male who had a heart attack and the family, about 50% of you are going to raise your goddamn hands. So I've never really seen a situation where one of these psychics has been like straight and to the point. Yeah, I'd have a friend. I believe it or not, I have a friend that is, and she knew her shit, but I never let her fuck with me because I just didn't want to know shit, and I just didn't listen. I'm better off not knowing I'm going to get hit by the UPS truck. You know what I mean? But I like Chip Coffee. I believe that, he's a reputable guy. But the second that it becomes this huge, and I get it, they got to make money, but the second you become like all about the money and the pomp and circumstance, then, if I had a gift like that, I would want to be like, by the way, your uncle says you got cancer, go get help. That's what I would use it for, not your mother wants me to tell you the time that she dropped you on your head that she's not responsible for the mild retardation that you suffered. Like, I don't need that shit. And I'm not making fun of it because it's probably going to piss a lot of people off, but I'm just being honest. Now, I will tell you this, you guys, Sylvia Brown, total fraud. Here's the thing about Sylvia Brown. She did something very despicable when she was on the Montel Williams show. She literally told a family her daughter would never be found and she was in a lake. Okay, there was that first one. Then there was another lady where she told the lady her daughter was still alive and was fine. She was wrong on both accounts. Now, how can you get that wrong? You're the fucking psychic. You're the one getting the messages. I just don't. That's the other thing that's awful fucking convenient to me is that when a psychic talks to you, boy, they're very specific about colors of a shirt, but they're not very specific about the fucking name of the message. Yes, he's wearing a red shirt and there's a J in his name somewhere. Like, that's not very specific to me. But what they're doing is they're printing the audience around. Oh no, wait, I have a dad who wore a red shirt and he had a J. His name was Jumanji. That was my dad. That's just kind of how they probe the audience. So I don't believe a lot of these people. I'm sure there's psychics that don't go on TV and do a damn good job. But I'll tell you what, I spent a lot of time in Virginia Beach. Obviously, a lot of you know that. My father was in the military. The Edgar Cayce Center for Research and Enlightenment was literally about 5 miles from where I was living. And my father took me over to that goddamn library. And this was a country club type of library where you pay $25,000 to become a member for a year. So the lady let us go in, and the books they had in that place were creepy as shit. This Edgar Cayce, if you're not familiar with him, claimed to be psychic, claimed to see chariots and the four horsemen show up and blah, 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 blah. And what's very interesting about that area is the area is very flat, but there's a couple of areas on the strip by the ocean. What he did, and this was kind of interesting, was he built this mansion on top of a huge, huge bluff. He like got all this sand and dirt and built the house, and it's above all of the other houses. The reason why he did that was because he said there was a great flood coming and he wanted to protect his house. I'm still waiting for the fucking flood. But this was a guy who was of his time and date and era was considered one of the most believable psychics there were. He even talked to US presidents. I believe online you can look up Edgar Casey, Cayce. He has readings, psychic readings that he did. He was a mentalist. He was a lot of different things, but there were some real creepy, weird people in that place. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. Yeah, and that's my thing. If you're a psychic and you're totally off base, okay. But when she got called on it, she tried to lie. And that's it. It's just, and maybe she was psychic, but maybe at the end of the day, she just ended up, uh, you know, maybe she just ended up fudging it. I don't know. I'm not psychic. I wish I was, you know. Let's see. The judge said I was going to jail. He must have been clairvoyant. Yeah. Absolutely. Just guess what? You're gonna do 2 to 5. I'm clairvoyant over here. But I don't know. But I just don't know. And I don't want to knock psychics or their abilities. I think there are some people that are just reputable that absolutely just understand the world in ways that we can't. Which opens up sort of a whole metaphysical sort of thing. But when it comes to like the ghost shows and stuff like that, I like them just like everybody else. I want to believe that like what they're experiencing is real. I just have a hard time with that. Just like I said when we talked about the Velisca murder X house, is that I have a hard time believing when, let's say, and we'll use this as a reference point, okay? Is when, for instance, let's pretend there's a haunting in my house. Let's pretend I'm murdered, okay? And somebody who lives in my apartment after me begins to get scratched and weird fucking things begin to happen. Well, this guy goes public and starts to tell everybody. Well, eventually he wants to sell. And what he does is he invites investigators to come in. Well, they're already predisposed to getting scratched. They're already predisposed to all the things that he said have happened. So when you get these second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth hand accounts of hauntings, that's where I tend to go, I don't know. Because if you're not predisposed to it and weird shit's going on, you know, I just don't know. I'm not a skeptic. I'm just somebody who just needs to experience it for myself, you know? Uh, if I was psychic, keep me away from the tracks. Yeah. Let's see. I'm waiting for a medium to channel little Nicky. That fucking horse. That horse had it coming, the motherfucker. Oh, God. Oh, so what else, guys? What else is there in your world that's creepy? That's creepy and crawly. What scares you? Dana, you do a lot of ghost hunting. I'm sure you've seen and experienced things. I've seen some of your videos and they made me shit my pants. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know. Chris, have you ever seen any ghosts? Anybody seen a ghost? That's the thing. I've heard shit, experienced shit that I can't explain, but I've never seen a full blown apparition come by and go, hey, turn the fucking light off. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing. These apparitions all do like spooky shit. Like they can't just come in and go, oh, put out the cigarette. You're going to put this whole place on fire. I'm going to have nowhere to fucking haunt you, prick. You know, that's the other thing. The ladies at work just now figuring out at 5 a.m. the elevator door just opens and goes to the second floor by itself. They believe me now. See, this is what's really creepy about where I live. You guys want to hear some sick shit? So this building is haunted, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to tell you like specifically where I live, obviously, or which floor I'm on, but I was on an earlier floor and I was getting scratched, like crazy scratches for months and months. And I don't know if I can reproduce this here, sitting here, because maybe I can't. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can. I'm sure you guys hear me playing with my friend Sinatra Calneva dice. This is what I hear at night when I was living on a different floor. This is what I was hearing. You guys ready? All right. Hold on. Here we go. Now, obviously, what you just heard is me dropping pennies, nickels, and dimes on my table. I have been hearing that. I heard that on the other floor that I was living on nonstop for about 6 months. So much so that I would wake up in the middle of the night and go, what in the fuck? Who is dropping pennies and nickels all over the place? And I look on the floor, there's nothing. Then I thought it was loose screws, nothing, right? Then I started getting scratched really bad, like to the point where on my arms and my back, it would like, I would be scratched to the point where, first of all, I would be scratched in an area where it's impossible for me to scratch myself. Secondary to that, it would break the skin. And that was a bit creepy for me. And I would hear like doors opening, doors closing in the middle of the night. As a matter of fact, last night my bathroom door closed all by itself, which scared the living shit out of me. However, this happened, and then I moved to another floor because there was a fire in my building. Since I've moved to this apartment, you would think the penny shit would stop, and it hasn't. It just continues to keep going. Now the closet door opens by itself, and my bathroom door opens and closes at night. Now there's a vent in there which may explain it, at least scientifically, but I don't understand the pennies dropping. I don't understand that noise. I'm not necessarily getting scratched anymore, but I'm going to tell you what. So I got curious. So I was talking to the people who run the building, like the super, right? And I says, let me ask you something. I said, is this place haunted? He's like, well, yeah, blah, blah, blah. This place used to be a mortuary. I said, a mortuary? He goes, yeah, it used to be where they like brought all the dead bodies back in like, I don't know what year. I didn't ask, but back in the old days, this is the morgue. The foundation that this building was built on. And obviously, because there's a lot of different age groups that live in my building, a lot of people have fucking died. But it's just fucking weird. It's just weird. I don't understand what the pennies are, but to continuously hear them falling, and it's always the same time at night. It's always between like 12 and 1:30 and 2 a.m. It's just very weird. And I can't explain it. Does anybody understand anything about pennies falling or what the connection is for that? Because I just don't know. My brother lived in a house on Staten Island, and it was so haunted. That was haunted, and no crashing dishes or screaming, just feelings. Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, right? So, ladies, if you're listening to this show, okay? If you're listening to this show, right? Let's pretend you're dating a guy, all right? And you haven't seen him in a while. You come over and he's got scratch marks on his back and his arms. What are you immediately going to think he's been up to? What do you think he's been up to? Exactly. That's what I had to go through. Now, can you imagine him explaining to you, I'm telling you as God is my witness, I'm not screwing with nobody. I'm getting scratched in the middle of the night by something that I can't understand. Oh, yeah, right. Tell that to one of your holas. That's exactly what I got. This was years ago, but still, that's my point. I mean, I think this was like 4 years ago. That's my thing. You try to explain. I'm not, first of all, I bite my fingernails. I can't scratch myself. That's number one. I don't have loose cuticles. That's number two. Number three, I can't even reach that part of my back with my fucking arm. And they go, yeah, sure. I bet you tell that to all the girls. I'm telling you, it's weird. Does anybody know anything about pennies and change dropping? I saw a black and white TV fly across the room from its stand. It was laying on the couch, and the thing just blew. I left my place, went and crashed at my buddy's house. Was 40 years ago. Freaky stuff. All right, so I'll tell you one. So check this out. So my sister died at 10 years old. God rest her soul. Okay, she had cancer. And I was at my mother's house, and I think my mother had gone out of town or whatever, and she's just like, don't fucking throw any parties. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I remember my mother's house, there was always an uneasy feeling for a lot of different reasons. And I don't want to go into it, but everybody that ever came over to hang out with me, that was my friend, whatever, they always felt comfortable in the back room in the house. And a lot of that was because, they all knew my sister died in that room. It was creepy or whatever. And there were various stories that, future sister-in-laws would see my sister walking around the house in the middle of the night, which is kind of creepy. Then there's moments where I would catch my mom, talking to my sister in the kitchen. And I was like, Mom, who you talk to? Oh, nobody. Creepy shit, right? So one night I'm sitting there and I'm like bored. I got nothing to do. It's like 9 o'clock at night. You ever have that feeling do you ever have that feeling where you're just sitting there and all the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you're like, what the fuck? Why am I creeped out? You get that feeling you're being watched. And it was just the weirdest, oddest feeling. And I'm like, okay, I don't feel comfortable. I want to get the fuck out of this house. And so in the hall, which led to the front door, she had a regular light switch, but they stuck a little bit. So like when you would lift it up, it would pop, like it would pop. And I'm sitting there not doing anything, and for whatever reason, I'm beelined on this goddamn front door. I don't know what it is. And I hear, and the light fucking goes on all by itself, goes off all by itself. I left that house immediately. Fuck that shit. I don't have time for that nonsense. No fucking way. I've just never felt comfortable in that house, even when I was a kid. Now, is that ghost? I don't know what it is. But if you've ever been sitting there, even it happened a couple of times when I was driving too. You just get that really fucking weird feeling. You're like, what the hell is going on? You just get creeped out, What kind of heating did your building have? We have baseboard heating. It's baseboard heating. But I do know just from checking the bathroom door, there's a vent that goes out. It's posted in my bathroom wall, and it goes out into the main hallway. And they have heat in the hallway. I'm not really sure what kind of heat they have in the hallway, but I think it's just suction. That really doesn't bother me nearly as bad as the pennies, because that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And I've tried recording it a million times, and like people have been here in my place, and they're like, "What the fuck are those pennies dropping?" I said, "See, I told you I'm not crazy. Oh, let me record it." And you record it on your phone, and you can't hear it. It's the weirdest goddamn thing, and it's the same time every night. You're a genius. The ghost did it to me. Yep, there you go. Look up the conference house around the corner from the house. Yeah, I will definitely check that out, agnostic. Definitely 100%. People who are really psychic, do you believe they can talk to dead people? Listen, they're getting it from somewhere. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I didn't mean this to become like a whole trash psychic show. It's just kind of not where I wanted to go with it. But someone is staring at you. Yes, like I'm telling you our building is haunted. I said nothing. None of this came in, and they felt the same thing. If we could sage our lab, we would. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but that's the one thing about sorry, I was looking at the time. That's the one thing about sort of this show that we're going to try to do. I want to talk about all kinds of things, not just ghosts. Like, there's just so many things in this world that I just completely do not understand. That I want to learn obviously more about, but I want to have an open discussion about. I was hoping, now, granted, we only have 30 in here tonight, and I'm sure some people will laugh at that or whatever, but I personally don't care, because to me, it's just about finding which direction I want to take with this show. And I think before too long, the way that this show will operate is like on Saturday nights for like 3 hours, it'll be like open lines, like coast to coast, and we're going to get some real big fucking nuts that are going to come on the show. I'm sure Boston Andy is chomping at the bit to talk about this kind of stuff, but he can't. Today's his birthday, by the way. I should have called him and said happy birthday. Should I call him right now on the air, guys? Hold on. Let me see if I can call him. And you guys hit number 1 if you want me to call Boston Andy. It's his birthday. I don't know if he'll pick up. Hit 1 if you want me to call Boston Andy on the phone. Normally, I would never do this on a show, but I should have called him and said happy birthday anyway. All right. If you guys don't know who Boston Andy is, you're about to find out. Hold on a second. Oh, let's see if he'll actually pick up. Come on, pick up, you jerk off. It's his birthday. He might be getting boom boom. What a prick. Oh, well, he might call back. You never know. Anyway, so are there any subjects or anything that you guys, going towards the future want to talk about? Because there's lots of things that we can talk about. And I would definitely, I wish, you guys, this show is always open for you guys to come on. I know I posted the link earlier, but we're going to cut out of here in about a half an hour anyway. But for future reference, I would like you people to come on the show. I would like to have a open dialogue. If anybody wants to come on, let me know. I'll drop the link. If you want to come on and shoot the shit, I think I'm dropping the link the right way. If I'm not, somebody tell me. I'm not sure. The whole area was Algonquin, Indian, and British soldier history. Absolutely. All right, so we're also going to talk on this show about conspiracies and stuff like that. So we've sort of digested the whole Bigfoot thing. So what's another one? Loch Ness. You guys believe in a plesiosaur still being alive? Do you think that's possible? Wow, that's a good one. Look at that. My buddy Harry comes right out with it. Reincarnation, time slips, cryptids. And cryptids would obviously is cryptozoology. It just depends because I don't know what you guys are into. Let's see. Jeff, do you have any interest on demonology? I do, but because I'm Catholic, I try to realistically stay away from that as far as possible. But I am going to get into that a little bit because I think that's going to be important to discuss. All right, so here's the deal. I got somebody in the background, and we're going to bring them on. Here's the deal, guys. Unlike all of these other shows, you don't have to show your face. In fact, I would prefer that you don't. And the reason why I do that is because it just protects you. Really, at the end of the day, your voice is what's most important. Your opinion is what's most important. So it's been a while since I've had anybody on. So let me see what happens. We are going to bring on Agnostic. Agnostic, how are you?
Good. How are you, brother?
Good. So what are you up to this evening?
Just hanging. I used to follow you on, well, I still follow you actually, with your other content. I find it most interesting. This whole venture for you is pretty interesting to me. But yeah, check out Conference House.
Definitely. So what is your hard stance on do you have a stance on Bigfoot?
On Bigfoot, no, I think it's a hoax. You brought up a lot of valid points that I've been feeling for years. Nobody ever found a corpse. Nobody has real good, solid photo coverage of them, video coverage. Nobody shot them. So, and like I said, Gunnar Lindblom had a Bigfoot experience. So I think that says it all. Come on, let's just be honest.
That's probably one of the more hilarious lines I've ever heard.
Oh yeah. I mean, if he's seen it, it's got to be real, of course.
Well, of course, I'm sure it was a made Bigfoot too.
Yeah, just like all of his wise guy relatives. But yeah, the Conference House is pretty wild, man. It has a pretty wild history. I don't know if you've heard me before, but I'm from Manhattan. Actually, not too far from where you are.
Okay, I'm on the Lower East Side, so
I'm from First and 12th.
Oh, okay, all right, I got you.
Yeah, and then I moved to Staten Island. And basically grew up on Staten Island, but yeah, the South Shore. I mean, all of Staten Island has a lot of history, but the Conference House, George Washington was there, pulling some kind of secret meetings. There was a history of British. I think it was a general. He used to like torture and kill his servants. I mean, all sorts of weird shit with the Conference House. But Hopping Avenue, where I lived, I could tell you a fact. And I am agnostic. It's not just my screen name. Normally, I would, I guess growing up, I would say I never believed in it. But that house, it was on Hopping Avenue. I won't give the address because I'm sure people live there or try to. Right. And when we first got there, it's hard to explain, but when we first got there, we knew something was up. And when you were in the kitchen, the house was from the 1700s. So the
Right.
windows were from floor to ceiling. And when you were
Oh
in the
wow.
kitchen, yeah, and believe me, I'm on YouTube right now talking with a lot of people listening, so it's not easy for me to talk about because I'm definitely not a believer.
Right.
Um, but there was always a feeling that somebody was looking, and in the beginning, I used to grab either a pistol or a knife and go out the back door because there was always this feeling, man, that somebody was outside, like looking at you through the window.
Right.
The neighbors had no view from opposing yards on the next block. We checked that thoroughly, so nobody was looking at us through a window. The catch was the yard was that green ivy. I don't know if you ever seen it, like the ivy that grows on the side of old English houses.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, so it was a store. You were peeping Tom. Whatever it was, couldn't snuff up without us hearing. But we
Right.
all that feeling that we watched, like fine. And so I pointed in the side door and took the main bedroom.
Right.
They always said it was uncomfortable, but when you walk down the hallway, it's crazy. And I don't blame anybody for not believing this. You walk down the hallway, you got that uneasy feeling. When you stepped into the side room, which was a kid's room originally, this house, the back room had straw mattresses. Don't know how long this house has been there. And when you stepped over the threshold, your shoulders would just drop, like peaceful. You step
Yeah.
back into the hallway, the shoulders go back up. And we only lasted 3 months. We just left just for that reason. But we would bring people, like people would visit, and we'd never say a word and hear the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
it
I've
was
often
crazy. And the
what I've
living room.
often found is if you've got weird shit like that going on, I tend to not tell people because I want to make sure that I'm the one that's not going crazy. So when they come over, I don't say a
Well,
thing. And if
yeah,
they say, "Hey, do you hear that?" And I'm like, "Of course, I hear it all the time."
yeah, that's exactly what we would do. We wouldn't tell them just to see their response, and we would hear the
Yeah,
same thing. I,
that's
I went up to
crazy.
the bathroom because the bathroom was in the back. You had to go up the stairs and down the hallway, and people would comment like, "I don't know, man. I got a chill," and we all laugh and go, "Well, you should. I mean, should have a chill. It's Staten Island in the middle of July, you know."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, oh, it was crazy, bro. It was crazy. And then the conference house was an issue. I knew this kid. He lived on Main Street, and his little sister. And I remember that he was in the car business with me back in the day when we were chopping cars. He swears by it, and so does the little girl. His little sister swore that
Right.
she saw an Indian, and what she described was an Indian with face markings. He
Yeah.
came up the walkway, and she ran in the house and got a mother, and of course nobody's there. But I
Right.
remember that, like looking at her and saying, "This ain't a kid making up a story." Like I don't know what it was, but she really believed it. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah,
But that whole area is.
kids are often not that detailed. When kids get very detailed about something they're seeing, you kind of got to go, "Uh-oh."
Well, you ready for this one? And you can't.
Yeah,
I
go
mean,
for it.
anybody can make shit up. It's YouTube. You could lie all day long, but I'm not. Um, Come to find out, after that, we were talking to this kid's mother, Janice, and she wound up telling us that it was an old colonial, the house, but it was nice, beautiful home. And she told us, and we never knew this prior to the kid having that experience, that there was some kind of beef, back, I don't know, 1700s, I'm imagining. I don't remember a date or a time being said. And
Right.
the Algonquin Indian who had the beef with the guy came back and burnt the original house down.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. And like I say, and I'm sitting there listening to this going, wow, this sounds like something in a fucking movie. Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's definitely crazy. Definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming on, buddy. I got like
Yeah,
people
not a
jumping
problem,
in the
man.
back finally. So
All right, you got it, kid. Thanks for having me
but
on.
yeah,
Yeah, but
come on
look into that.
anytime.
Yeah, definitely look into that. The conference house, Tauntonville, Staten Island.
All right, I will do.
You got it, kid. Have a good night and enjoy your
All right.
Christmas.
All right, you two have a Merry Christmas. Wow. So before I jump in, because I see Randy in the back, I wanted to address this because this is a big reason why I kind of went crazy last week. There's this guy, Todd Standing, who was an absolute fruit that took those pictures of Bigfoot. Oh, one of them looks like a lion, maybe a bad uh, FX job. Well, here's the thing. I actually posted those photos, Gianni, in the Bigfoot episode that we did do. And that is one of them looks like a fucking leper, and the other looks like some hillbilly that has that, that disorder, the werewolf disorder, where they grow the hair all over their face and shit. I don't know what the actual disorder is, but I Todd Standing something else. All right, let's see. So we're gonna drop the link. Anybody who wants to come on can. Uh, I'm gonna hop over here to Randy. Hopefully, the connection's a little better than it was with the agnostic one. Randy, how you doing, buddy?
Doing all right, Jeff. How you doing?
Good, good, good.
I kind of grew up in the funeral business.
Oh
and,
boy.
and you were talking about it used to be a mortuary.
Right.
Well, some of the different ethnic groups would actually use coins to put over the eyes to keep them shut.
Oh wow.
And also too to pay their way into the afterlife.
Oh. Well, that
So I'm
makes sense.
kind of wondering if that may be the reason why you're hearing coin sounds in your house.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure. At first I thought it was just like, oh, you pile stuff on your desk, stuff falls, whatever. But it's like, here's what's really weird. Not only do I hear them hitting the floor nonstop between the same hours every night, and it happens 9 or 10 times in a row, but I also hear them. If you were to turn my apartment upside down, it would be like dropping them on the ceiling too. And that's the other weird thing, because there's a ton of room between my apartment and say the apartment that's over above me. So if somebody could drop a fucking pot on the floor upstairs and I wouldn't hear it, but it sounds like they're dropping pennies up there too. It's very strange.
Yeah. Also, too, my house when I was growing up was actually also the funeral home,
Oh wow.
and it's been handed down from generation. Well, we used to sleep upstairs, and at night you would hear the doors open and closing,
Yeah.
and we were kind of wondering what was going on. And I told my grandmother about it, and she said that probably would have been your great grandfather, because when they were really little,
Right.
he would actually go from room to room to room, check up on the kids before he would go to bed.
Right. So it's just history replaying itself.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I made one mistake one time, and I swore I'd never do it again. High school years, come home drunk. Well, one night I passed out in the front room in the parlor, and I was just laying there, and all of a sudden, I ain't kidding you, it felt like somebody took something like a big bag or something, just dropped it on my chest. And I
Wow.
woke up and I couldn't hardly breathe.
Yeah.
Well, then I crawled myself back to upstairs to my room, and I was talking to Mom about that.
Yeah.
And Mom says, "Was you drunk?" I said, "I probably was. I probably not. I cannot confirm or deny at the time. Try to play that card."
Right.
And I found out that my great grandmother was a teetotaler back then.
Oh, there you
Did
go.
not like she did not like drunk people come to the house. She would throw a fit.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that was probably her just pissed off, and get your wake you up and get your butt upstairs to sleep it off.
Wow.
But
I can't believe you must have a ton of different things that happen when you're living in that house.
oh, it wasn't too bad. But yeah, there was things, like you'd be downstairs at night, and and you'd hear like the floor creaking, like somebody was pacing up and down or going down the stairs. There's times that my sister and all of us would be watching, like an old late night horror movie during Halloween season. You swear you hear people crying at a
Oh, yeah.
distance, all sorts of stuff like that. But I mean, they weren't mean or nasty or anything. You just lived with it.
Yeah, I think after a while you just get kind of used to stuff like that.
But it's still funeral home to this day, but nobody lives there. Mom and dad moved to a single story house, and my sister and my brothers run it, and they got their own place. But
wow,
it's still standing to this day.
Wow, that's why I appreciate the story very much. So,
no, you're welcome.
And definitely feel free to come on anytime you want, Randy.
Oh, you know I would, Jeff.
All right, buddy. Well, you have a good Christmas. You hear me?
You too.
All right, buddy. So yeah, there you go. People, it's kind of like the movie My Girl, like they live in the funeral home. I often wondered as a kid what it would be like to grow up in that sort of industry, or to grow up into a house that had that kind of stuff going on. It would probably make you, I think it would make you a little less sort of abject to death. But then again, I don't know. But according to Randy, weird stuff kind of went on, but you just get used to it. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. I dropped the link if anybody like to come on and discuss anything. If not, then we'll just keep it going for a little bit longer. I suck at these live deals, but I'm hoping tonight it's a little bit better than it normally is. But as the weeks go on, we are going to be talking about all kinds of different stuff. We talk about horror movies too. Huge horror fan that I am. You guys will get to see my beautiful face here. Not today, but you will be. But what I need to try to figure out is how I'm going to move my camera and everything around, because I want you guys to see my horror corner. I have a whole entire horror corner in my house, kind of fits with sort of the show title. But I've got to figure out, because I have an iMac and I don't want to be that close to a camera. Like, I want to be able to push it far away and just kind of do my thing. So I'm probably going to invest in a second camera that'll be somewhere else, and I'll switch between camera angles, but these will begin to be live and you'll get to see my beautiful, beautiful shining face. But like I said, we're going to cover everything. I think, I don't think there's many things that we aren't going to be willing to cover. And those of you that are a fan of the mob stuff, we're definitely going to continue that. But I just wanted to stay off. I stayed off live for a long time just because I was focused on getting a lot of other things on, sort of on the radar, so to speak. But it looks like we're losing some people in the crowd, which is what I kind of expected. Boardwalk guy, have you ever seen a ghost? I don't know what the monkey woman is. Boardwalk guy, if you're still in here, have you seen a ghost? I'm just curious. What other things? Do you guys believe in Loch Ness? Or you guys don't believe in Loch Ness? I think that, what I think, honestly, if we were going to talk about hauntings, I probably think per capita, the most haunted places in the world have got to be prison. I can't imagine. And I know for anybody that's going to bring up the fucking penitentiary in Philadelphia, I will never go there. You're not getting me in there. You are not getting me in there. Randy believes in them. Randy believes. Here's the thing with Loch Ness, though. If the Loch Ness monster exists, technically they usually talk about being a plesiosaur, which I don't think it would be. It has snake-like movements, allegedly, which sort of lends itself more to like an eel type of thing. Like, they get some monster fucking eels in London, huge eels. But I don't know what to believe. I really just don't know what to believe. What's Nessie monster up in Vermont? Ever hear about that? I think Champy is in Michigan, isn't it? Off Lake Champlain, Champy. But I know what you're talking about. There's one in Vermont. There seems to be one in every goddamn lake that there is, Gianni. But listen, if you guys want to hear a story. So I was in Scotland for a month, years and years and years ago, and just kind of is something to do. I said, excuse me, my jaw just popped out of place. That's fucking outstanding. Wow. Holy shit, that hurt. Wow. Ear popped and everything. Anyway, point of the matter is, I was in Scotland. We took a Loch Ness river cruise. And that lake not only is just, first of all, glaciers made the whole lake. It's like 10,000 feet deep and all this crazy shit. But the high peat content that's in the loch makes it black. So listen, they've put ROVs down there. They've chased a bunch of things. Now there's some very interesting pictures that they came out with of something that bumped a camera. But once again, could something that's that big survive? Plesiosaur was an air breather, so they have to come up. So it's easier, in my opinion, it's easier for me to believe that something like that could exist at a 10,000 foot radius and come up and breathe and go back down and probably not be seen. But once again, very similarly to Bigfoot, is the main picture was a toy duck on a plank of wood. That the big infamous picture that everybody is very familiar with. So until they can show me like a, I hate to say this, a poor woman being snatched off the shore by her throat by something huge, I just don't know how much I can believe. You know what I mean? Let's see. Do some shows, serial killers, some investigations from you would be great. Well, we did. Dana, we covered the Villisca Axe murders. We covered something that really nobody does, and that is the Colonial Parkway serial killings, which we went into deep investigation. Like, we pulled out all the crime books for that one. And really tried our best to sort of profile. And yeah, we're going to do stuff like that, but I try to mix it up because I just don't want to be like, if I end up just true crime, then I'm not getting a break from the organized crime. And I really would like to get a break from that. However, I'm glad you kind of brought that up, Dana, because I wanted to bring up this Idaho stuff. You guys been following this Idaho murders and everything that's going on there? I have a theory. And I kind of went I kind of went down that road. Let me click this really quick. I've seen some Loch Ness underwater videos they made looking for it. You can't see anything. No, it's the high peak content makes it black, and it's cold too, frigid. The St. Augustine Lighthouse, that place is haunted as fuck. I know that much. But the Idaho stuff, and we said it last week. And I listen, I'm not a cop, obviously. I'm not a detective. I didn't go to college for any of this stuff. But there's a lot of things that if you go back and you listen to the Villisca Murder Axe House, and you go back and specifically listen to the weird disappearances, and you listen to the Colonial Parkway serial killer episode that we did, we really got in depth with profiling. We got in depth with modus operandi. We got very in depth comparing and contrasting other serial killers and what they do and how they do it and why they do it. And we really used what I actually have, and I shouldn't tell anybody this. I actually have a book that you can't get. It's an FBI profiling handbook that only FBI students can get. I knew somebody who got me the book. It doesn't really matter, but this book is insane. Just the photos it has, the evidence it has, and it teaches you. This is what all of the profilers get on like year 3 of when they want to become profilers. So this is a book that you cannot acquire, you cannot get, that I have, and it's fascinating. And it's well, in so many ways, it teaches you how to get away with stuff because it teaches you investigation techniques and whatever. But it's really good at classifying serial killers and the psychopathy and the psychoanalysis of them. And this thing in Idaho is very strange to me. It's very strange because one of the victims in that particular case was, for the most part, gutted like a fish. More so than everybody else, which would tell you that she's the one that took the brunt of his anger. But here's the thing. This is a 3-story house. This idea that some fucking maniac just decided on a boring night, I'm going to go in that house and kill 6 people. serial killers just don't think like that. They're methodical, but most of the time, there is a steep learning curve. They hone their craft. They get better at what they did. I'm sure the first time that Dennis Rader went out and killed a bunch of people, it wasn't that successful. And we know it wasn't because he kind of screwed up. Okay. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, probably wasn't very proficient, but by the time he got to victim 19, he was pretty proficient at what he did. And the only reason why people like Ridgway get caught is because they go back to the goddamn murder scene because they just can't they can't compose themselves to stop. So when you look at this particular case, it's not like a serial killer just decided to pick a house at random, go in and try his luck. Killers are not like that. They think ahead a little bit enough. You'd be more hard pressed to prove to me or say to me that this was more of a rage killing than it was, say, premeditated, because the odds of being able to walk into a house and just kind of figure it out and hope there's not a lot of people there, like nobody's going to take that risk. But what makes this very creepy is that these people were all in different rooms. So he methodically went from room to room to room doing this. That's somebody who knew the layout, knew how to get in and out, and was not worried about anything. And that's why when you've seen the media out there every day going, why haven't we heard anything? Why haven't you told us anything? How come there hasn't been an arrest made? Well, because there's not enough evidence to make an arrest. And number two, do you really think they're going to tell the public? Or do you really think they're going to tell the press exactly who they're looking for and why? Of course they're not, because every other case historically, JonBenet Ramsey, great example of that. Police fucked that all up. And I don't care what anybody says. The parents did that. I don't think that they necessarily killed JonBenet Ramsey. I think her brother did it, and I think the parents covered it up. That's just the way I've always kind of speculated it went. That's the way I think it is. Just like the Casey Anthony thing, I think her father had everything to do with that too. I'm not saying Casey Anthony did nothing wrong, but her father had a lot to hide, and there's just some other stuff that's very creepy about that guy in general. But I think he knew a hell of a lot more than he's ever said. And I think before it's over and done with, you're going to see him get arrested. I almost guarantee it. But but with this stuff with Idaho, I don't think that the investigation's messed up. I think they're so paranoid about fucking this up that they're just not letting any information out. You know what I mean? Are you going live on MTR anytime soon? Let's see. Today is December 17th. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow night. Maybe tomorrow night. If not tomorrow night, then probably before Christmas. Definitely before Christmas. Let me look at my calendar really quick. Let's see. Today is the 17th. Maybe tomorrow night I'll do it. Maybe tomorrow night. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. But if not, I will probably do it no later than Wednesday of next week. So it's either going to be tomorrow night or it'll be Wednesday night at 9:00. Okay. So there we go. Let's see. What about the skin chihuahua? I think it's tied in. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not gonna, hold on. It says, how are you talking about Idaho? Agnostic. Yes, Idaho. Here's the thing about Idaho, right? So one of the victims was brutally stabbed multiple times more than the rest of the victims in the house. Now that could mean one or two things, and by all means, I'm not an expert, but but that often tells you that, first of all, stabbing somebody to death is a very, very personal crime. That is a very angry crime. The fact that she took the brunt of it, either it tells me one of a couple things. Either one, that was the main desire, or she just didn't perish the first couple of rounds and she kept fighting. Those are the two things. But this is definitely going to be somebody between the ages of 21 and 34. This is going to be somebody who doesn't have a girlfriend, somebody who probably has a hatred towards women. This is going to be somebody who's been to that house before, maybe would have dated one of them. But I don't think this is just like some nut job picking the house, going in and having an awful time with them. I just don't see that. I think they're going to be known to at least some extent. And if they're not known, it could be a relationship between like the 3 degrees of separation. But this is also somebody who knew the area, and this is somebody who's done this kind of shit before. This is not a rookie. Rookies don't get that lucky. So I have intentionally not been following this case because I want to see how close I can get to actually sort of being close to what is going on. So what I will do is I will look at press releases from the cops, seeing what they put out. I don't listen to the news. I don't listen to I don't read articles. I just kind of experiment with my own thing, writing down after everything that I've learned from this book and just from years of doing the whole serial killer stuff before all of this. I just kind of wrote my own pattern down, what I thought it might be, where this would go. And so far I've been pretty close to the money, but we'll see, because it's just going to depend. And this is somebody they're not going to catch. This is somebody they're not going to catch. I would be stunned if like next week they arrest like a 19-year-old kid. I would be fucking stunned. Utterly stunned. I just don't see that being the case, because this is just not somebody who just decided one night to do this. Think of the meticulous act that it takes to break in, not be heard, and then go through every room finding somebody. Like, first of all, going in, you don't know how many people are in the house. You don't know if there's a dog. You don't know any of these things. So there's 3 levels. And you're going to go from level to level, house, room to room to room, and take your chances. Unless I have a machine gun, I'm not going to do it. I'm serious. And I know that's a gross thing to talk about. And I'm not, but I hear so many people talking about this, and everybody wants to be like an internet sleuth, and everybody says, oh, I could solve it. To me, it's not about solving it. It's just look at the objectives here. I mean, this is not a normal crime. I hate to say it, but school shootings nowadays are a normal crime. It follows a log line. There is a pattern. Every time you do a school shooting, it's the same fucking pattern. And it's the same pattern with serial killers. They all do it for the same reasons. What I would truly be interested to know in this case, if there was semen found at the scene. I know that's gross, but that's what I would like to find out, because that's going to take it up a notch. If this is just 6 homicides, whatever the case, whatever. But if there's DNA or semen at the scene, that takes the dysfunction up to a whole nother level and changes the game. And the reason why they're not finding anything is because I don't think he left anything behind. And I would almost be willing to bet you he's within a 2-state radius of Idaho. He's not going very far. This is not a guy that just shows up in town, does something, and moves on. This is somebody that knows the area. And this is somebody that has done it before and will do it again. So what I would be interesting, and for all you little internet sleuths that will listen, what is interesting is go to Idaho and just look up some database records. Look at stabbings and rapes in that area, in that little town. Look at how many outside of the town. See where they're clustered. Because oftentimes you will see, like even with Bigfoot, clusters. Clusters mean everything. Clusters of events, But I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, but I feel bad for the families. I feel bad for the police in this certain situation, because I don't think there's anything that they could do that would please the parents. There's nothing they could do to please the community. But you have to understand that so many other police departments have made this mistake a gazillion fucking times, and they're just being closed-lipped. They have to be. They have to be. I have to agree, Jeff. In this day and age, if they could have found the killer, they would have. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If they had anything on this guy, he would be in jail already, especially when it's that high profile. You got to remember, they have over 100 officers, 100 task force members working on this case day in and day out. 100. Now let's go back in history. The Green River Killer, they had like 350 working on that case, and look how long it took them to catch him. Okay. You look at Dennis Rader. They had over 300 working on that case and could never catch him. And it took Dennis Rader fucking up by writing a fucking letter from the church for them to find him. Gary Ridgway, if it's not for the paint chips where he works, they don't find him. And the sick part about Gary Ridgway, and this is a fact a lot of people don't know, is that Gary Ridgway, believe it or not, when he had killed like his 9th or 10th victim, he literally wrote a letter to the press. And the godfather of forensic science, a guy by the name of George McDonald, I think that was his name. Maybe I'm getting his first name wrong. Gary Ridgway wrote a letter to the press, and he wrote things in this letter that only the killer would know. Well, detected that the press gets the letter. The press takes it to the detectives that are overseeing the Green River killings. They hand it to McDonald, and he is looking at it, goes, "No, we have a leak in our department. There's no way this is the guy that did it." And the detectives are looking at him saying, "No, this guy is saying shit that only we know." And so they bypass the letter, and guess what? He goes on to kill another fucking 35 people. And then years later, when Ridgway's giving an interview, he explains that he wrote a letter to the press basically because he wanted to get caught, and that he knows it got into the hands of McDonald from the FBI profilers, and they didn't want anything to do with it. McDonald tried to lie and say he never got the letter, but then people outed him, and his reputation was destroyed. But that's the whole point. And that's why what you see now is you cannot afford to not allow any stone to sort of be unturned. Got to check everything. And that's the problem. Then you open up the phone lines, you get all these fucking psycho nuts that call in saying all kinds of crazy shit. But, you know, I don't know. The food truck guy is the one that left the country. Was the trip planned? Well, see, okay, here's the thing with the food truck guy. That poor bastard was interviewed by the cops. He had nothing to do with it. The problem is, and the reason why that even came up was because the internet people, which I guess I can include myself in this mix, the internet sleuths who want to solve everything are the ones that are honing in on these people. And it's making the law enforcement's job just that much more impossible. And granted, there are some cases where the people on the internet have solved cases, like the guy Luca, whatever the fuck his name is, the one that was killing the cats and then was chopped up a guy and whatever the fuck, I forgot his name, but they're responsible for getting him pinched and arrested. Thank God, because he was a scumbag. But I think that the reality is that too many people have gotten involved and make an issue bigger. And I think I think where my standpoint is with this is that I think that the media being upset at the police and the police just kind of being quiet, well, they're doing it for a reason. And I got to be honest with you, I have not told this to a lot of people, but my biological mother was murdered. Okay. She was found in a ditch. It's something I don't like to talk about. But here's the thing. When you're sitting around waiting for somebody to be arrested, which my cousin's the one that murdered her. Okay. So for anybody that tries to tell me that, I don't have any experience in this, you'd be surprised what has happened in my life. But the fact that my cousin murdered her and tossed her in a ditch, when you're the family of somebody and you're trying to figure something out, applying pressure to police isn't going to help. You have to let them do their job. Now, if it goes 6 months and you're not hearing a word from them, then of course there's a problem. But you cannot, mitigate the pain and the suffering and everything else by meddling in what they're paid to do. Some detectives fuck it up. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. But that's just the reality. That's just the reality. And the sick and disturbing part is that you know how much time my cousin got for murder? Guess how much? 5 years for murder. Yep. And by the way, I never met my biological mother. Just so that you know, I never met her. So I'm not pretending that I had this love relationship where I knew her, and I didn't. But when I found out, I felt like, I'll never meet this person. I'll never get another side to his story. And I made the mistake of threatening to kill him. How quick do you think the cops came to me? I threatened to chop his head off. Like I went crazy. But that's just the thing. So when you're robbed of ever getting to know somebody that gave birth to you, like that's a horrible thing to experience. And then to find out why he did it, it's just even more repulsive. It doesn't make sense to me. Then I had a cousin that got whacked. Mob guy. got whacked by probably my family. I got to be honest with you. Never told anybody that. And that's Providence guy. You know? So I've been through it all. I've been through it all. Murder and mayhem. You know, murder and mayhem. But that's just one day I'll tell all those stories, but I don't tell them these days just because it's not for public consumption. You know what I mean? Yeah, 5 years, Gianni. They never found who killed my cousin. They found him with his brains blown out in a Jaguar overlooking the Narragansett River. Yeah. And you know what's funny about that? My cousin getting whacked is that, I was very close to my cousin. A beautiful guy. Just he had one of those big cigar boats, that went really fast. And he always took me out on the boats, to the Narragansett. We had a good time. He'd take me out for the day. Very affectionate guy. Everybody loved him. And then I just stopped seeing him, and I didn't understand why. And years would go by, and years would go by. So whatever, I'd ask around. Oh, well, he's on vacation. That's what I would be told. So I figured he was probably in prison, but he wasn't. He was dead. Because years after the fact, I finally just asked my mother. I said, "Ma, what the fuck happened to so and so?" And she says, "Well, he passed away." I'm like, "What? When the hell were you going to fucking tell me that?" And she's like, "Well, he made bad business investments." That's how it was explained to me. Bad business investments. And I said, "Well, who was his business investments with?" "Well, people we know." That's all I needed to hear. The rest is history. And the worst tragic part about that story is that, he was a young guy when he died. It's 40, 48, 49. And then his son just died. He's younger than me. It's just horrible stuff. Let's see. I'm with you most of it, but believe me, it could have been his first, not his last. I agree with you. I definitely can agree with you. I definitely think that maybe it wasn't his first. It could have been, but it won't be his last. That we're definitely going to agree with, because that's a brutal fucking crime. You got to have a special taste for that kind of crime. I think, and I've always said this, it sounds macabre. First of all, I'm not saying taking a life is easy, okay? But if you had to, and you shut your eyes, and you put the gun, and you just blow his head off, okay, you're not seeing the after effects of that. You're hearing the noise and then walking away. You didn't look at it. Then I think most of us could do that if we absolutely had to, or if somebody broke into your home, you're going to kill them. I get it. Or somebody hurts your mom, your wife, your daughter, your son, whoever. You're going to do what you got to do. But to just go into a house, just do that type of shit takes a special individual. And I don't mean that in any kind of good way whatsoever. And I think they'll catch him eventually. But I think there's going to be a lot more to this than we're probably ever going to know about. And it's sad, because I think I had read somewhere last week that the families hadn't even buried their kids yet. And a lot of them had said they weren't going to go ahead with the funeral because they were waiting till the case was resolved. And I'm just kind of like, I kind of get that. I understand that. But, at the same time, it just, I don't know. I don't know why I wouldn't choose to do that, but thank God I've never had to, make that fucking decision. You know what I mean? Let's see. I agree. If no semen, it could be his first. Didn't want to stick around. Yeah. Well, I mean, here's another thing to think about. And then I'll end this. I'm going to end this at 10:30 tonight, guys. And I thank you all for like joining in. Seriously, I only expected to get like 5 people. Here's something to think about with that particular case. Think about the time it takes to murder 6 people. With an automatic weapon, it's relatively quick. With a Rambo knife, that takes a little time. Even if you're in a frenzy, that takes a little time. And when you're stabbing one in one room, it's not like you just stab somebody and they don't make a noise. But you got 5 other people to worry about? Like, that's like on a whole nother level. That's on a whole nother level of crazy shit. I think are you talking about the neighbor that is like the works at the college or whatever, or the guy that turned himself into police for them to interview him because people were saying that he was doing interviews, so they got creeped out by it, so the cops went and interviewed him? I think that guy's an idiot. First of all, and I'm going to tell you this, I don't care if I live next door to Charles Manson. I'm not going and volunteering to talk to the police about anything. Because number one, uh, who would volunteer themselves? And so when the cops were quick to say, "Oh no, he couldn't have had anything to do with this," I don't know about that. He doesn't really fit the mold of what I would be looking at for somebody who would do that. I don't think he did, but I think it's somebody who wanted attention. And those are the problem parts when it comes to cases like that is people that want attention like this. Uh, it just I mean I think I believe I know agnostic who you're talking about. Uh, but I think the neighbor should just stop talking. Like everybody wants to look at me. Oh, I didn't do it, but everybody's accusing me online of doing it. Well, why are they accusing you? Because you're acting fucking weird. Like it's not normal for a guy to go, "Oh yeah, you want to talk about the neighbor that got whacked?" That it's sort of similar to oh God, was it Gacy who had the weird fucking neighbor that the cops, or was it Gacy? God, I can't remember. One of you guys are going to have to help me out on this. If not, I'll remember next week. There was a guy who fit the FBI profile of one of these serial killers, and they were eyeing him because he was just fucking weird. And he did a lot of weird shit. And he kept very odd hours. And anytime they interviewed him, he just said weird shit. Turns out he wasn't the guy doing it. But that's the whole thing, is the guy liked attention. And when you do that, you're drawing authorities away from, work. I'm trying to remember who it was. Hey, good night, Randy. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate all of you coming on here, actually. I wasn't expecting this big of a crowd. I know it was kind of a little bit all over the place. And I think the next time we do this, which just to give you a heads up, just let me look at my schedule here. Okay, today is December 17th. Next Friday, which is December 23rd, we will be releasing another episode of this show, which will be the Tales of the Night Horror podcast. So that show will be released at some point on Friday. And here's what we may do. Here's what we'll do next Friday. We will probably release the show at 8 o'clock at night and then have a live chat. And then right after that, for an hour, maybe we'll come on and talk about the podcast that we did. And then probably the following week, because right now with the horror podcast, we're going every 2 weeks on the horror podcast. So in between weeks, I would like to do a live show like this. So that's what we're going to plan from here on out. So next Friday, which is the 23rd, we will be releasing our 5th episode of Tales of the Night Horror podcast. I will probably release that at 8 o'clock at night. It'll probably go to 9:30. And then we will come on immediately afterwards and we'll kind of chop it up. You guys come on and we can talk. Now, I hope for the future, you guys definitely will come on the show because a large part of this show is going to be audience participation. So, with all that being said, for those that follow Mob Talk Radio, I am probably going to do a live. If I don't do one tomorrow, probably by Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll definitely do one. And we'll just chop it up because I got a lot we could talk about in organized crime for sure. But all of that being said, once again, I thank everybody for coming on. Gianni and Boardwalk Guy, Agnostic. I really can't see everybody who's in here. I don't know who's left. We've still got 30 left. Chris Gorky, George, this guy, Joey, Susan, Frankie, Randy. Thank you for coming on the show, buddy. Dana, thank you for stopping by. Harry and the Andersons. Why did I just say that? It's Harry Anderson. Terrell, just everybody that came in tonight. I really appreciate it because I really wasn't expecting a large crowd, but as we get to do more of these live shows, I would like it to be 2.5 hour, 3-hour show where we can spend 45 minutes or an hour bringing all of you on to talk about different topics. So per the usual, if you guys have any ideas, you can submit them at mobtalkradioshow@gmail.com. Just give me your ideas. And don't be bashful about coming on. This is not a drama show. This is not a bullshit show. This is a legit show. We also are going to be having on a friend of mine from London. He has got some very interesting stories. He actually worked on a cold case with some people, and they actually were able to indict and arrest somebody for a murder that was like 40 years ago or whatever. But he also lived with a guy named Darren. I'm not going to give you his last name because then you'll look up the case, you'll already know. But he lived with this guy. The long story short is this guy was kind of aloof, always kind of sort of strange. And my buddy Scott felt bad for him. They worked together. He said, why don't you live for me for a while? And he started noticing some weird things. And this guy eventually just left one day and murdered people. So we're going to hear Scott's story of his ex-roommate, Darren, and everything that happened in between. And then we'll talk about maybe the Yorkshire Ripper a little bit. And then some of the stuff that he's working on the other side of the pond, which is always intriguing. He's always talking with former forensic people over there. And what he kind of does is he investigates murders with former police chiefs and stuff. And they kind of get together and they look at the DNA files. And see, over in Europe, it's much easier to get your hands on criminal case files than it is in this country. So that's one of the things he does. And what they were actually able to do was actually get the police to like literally bring this guy in and interrogate the shit out of him. And it worked out for the best because the guy did it and they were able to solve some stuff. At least I believe that's the way it went, but we'll have to ask Scott. But we're going to have him on. It's just been a little hard getting him on because he's currently he lives like just outside of Manchester, but he's going to be relocating to Scotland. So just the transference, and he's getting married and he's got all these things going on. So it's just a matter of time before I'm able to get him on, and I'd like him to come on live, but the time difference is going to be insane. So maybe that'll have to be a pre-planned sort of interview, but we've got a lot of things. We're going to cover true crime, ghosts, hauntings. We're going to cover every single bit of it, but I'm trying to give you sort of bits and pieces of everything. I just don't want to do true crime because that gets old. But the things that do kind of intrigue me is the murders that are unsolved. That intrigues me probably more than somebody who whacked 60 people or whatever. But I also find the psychology of a lot of this very interesting. So it's going to be everything from ghosts to films. You name it, we're going to do it on this show. And do me a favor. If you do anything, number one, before all of you run out of here, I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas. Be blessed that you have family, be blessed that you have loved ones. I'm not as fortunate as many. Some of that's by choice. Some of it's not, but family's very important. And for anybody that is listening, the most important thing in life is let go of petty shit. If you're mad at your dad or your mother or your uncle, your brother for stupid petty shit that can easily be fixed, pick up the phone, call them. It's not worth it because tomorrow everything can change on a dime. And trust me, I am speaking from experience. We all make choices in our life. We all decide our own path to some extent. Some of us make brighter choices than others. And for those of you that are alone during the holidays, if things are tough, which I know they can be for a lot of people, you can always reach out to me, mobtalkradioshow@gmail.com. I'll talk to you all day if you're on the fence. I got no problem with that because it's all about whatever I can do to help somebody else. If you can learn something from me, or if we're both in the dumps, we can get each other through it. That's just life. But whatever you do, no matter what, how awful you may or may not be feeling, pick up the phone. Don't wallow in it. Don't think you're alone because you're not. And with all of this drama that I see going on and all of this filth and all of this just disgusting, vile shit, there's no humanity. There's no dignity in cutting someone apart. Unless they're rats. Then they get what they get coming to them. But take a moment to just be grateful for what you do have and try to help somebody who doesn't have it. Because that's what Christmas is about, believe it or not. So anyway, Merry Christmas to all of you. and to all of your families. But keep in mind, we'll be back next Friday with an all new podcast, and then we'll come on after the fact and talk about it a little bit. But thank you for spending time with me. You could have spent time with anybody in the world tonight, and you chose to choose time, whatever the fuck. You chose to be with me, and I appreciate that. So if anybody needs anything, reach out to mobtalkradioshow@gmail.com. And if not, we will see all of you soon. And once again, before you run out the door, just be good to somebody tomorrow. That's it. Just be good. You never know what a smile can do for somebody. Just smile. That's all you got to do. You can change a motherfucker's life with just a smile. Don't forget that. That's very important. Don't be like everybody else. Be jolly. Fake it till you make it. We'll see everybody next week. Oh, and don't forget to do me a favor. If you like the show, or even if you hate the show, give it a thumbs up and share it. Let your friends know, because this is where I want people to come and hang out who don't want to be a part of the shit show. If you don't want to be a part of the shit show and the drama, the nonsense, and the bullshit, I want you to come here. We'll talk about whatever you want. All right? So in the meantime, stay good to each other, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Good night, everybody.